Now let's take the same bookstore model and set this up as a risk model. Okay. So we have the cost and price data, and we have the average demand is deterministically 200, but we want to simulate that. Then we have the order quantity, which is the decision variable, and then the demand is that, sales is the minimum of these two. So revenue is sales times unit price, cost is order quantity times unit cost. So refund is order quantity minus sales. So that would be that the quantity remaining at the end of the period, and this can never be negative because sales is the smaller of these two, okay, order quantity and demand. So order quantity can never be smaller than sales, and then the profit is these three. Okay, to set this up as a risk model where we want to simulate average demand, let's assume that the distribution for demand will follow a PERT distribution. A PERT distribution is one where you have a pessimistic value, an optimistic value, and the most likely value. And then you fit a kind of a skewed distribution for that's called PERT. So let's say that the numbers are 100 at a very minimum, 175 is most likely, and if everything goes well, it'll be 300. So let's use the usual background color for given information. Now we'll insert a normal distribution here. So go to risk, okay, function, so continuous, and then you have risk normal, right? This normal, you have so now we're going to set up a probability distribution for average demand using the PERT distribution that we have defined here. So select that cell, function, look for risk PERT right there. Okay, minimum, most likely, and maximum. And we will take that off. Okay. So that gives you a simulated demand from this distribution, and if you want this to be a whole number, we can then use round 0. Okay. Now we'll make profit to be an output cell. Okay. Then we can run a simulation. Okay, we need to run one simulation. Okay, I've concluded the simulation. Okay. Now we can set up the minimum 5th percentile and so on here. Okay, we'll come to this part in just a second. But right now in the model, the order quantity is fixed at 200, right? What if you want to try different order quantities and then summarize the results of those possible values for the decision variable? This is the decision that we have to make, how many units we should order. So let's assume that we're going to try, say, 150 175, 200, 225 and 250. So these are the different order quantities we want to try here and repeat the simulation. Okay, so we have 5 different values, so we want to simulate 5 times, right? So now we have to indicate somehow that we have to take these numbers and insert it into this cell and then repeat the simulation. And in risk we have a function for that. Okay, so that's called risk sim table. So select that. Okay, now you have to specify the range from where the different values for this cell should come from. Okay, so now we have risk sim table of these. Okay, now that's our output. Now we're going to run the simulation 5 times, each time replication of 10,000. Okay. So now we can set up output values, okay, for different simulations. Okay, so these are the order quantities that we tried, and the simulation results are stored under a simulation number. So we ran 5 simulations, right? So simulation number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so these are the simulation numbers under which the outputs are stored. So if you want minimum, then you say risk min, right? So if you go here, then what is the data source? We want a risk min of profit. Okay, and then you indicate which simulation we want the min for. Okay, so this should be absolute reference because profit should always come from this cell. Okay, so simulation number 1. Right? Then if you want 5th percentile, then you say risk percentile. Okay, again we want risk percentile for profit. Okay, comma, what percentile we want? We want the 5th percentile. For which simulation? Okay, that one. Okay, average, again risk mean. Risk mean, profit and the simulation number. And okay, I'm going to take that and paste it here inside in edit mode, so that way the cell addresses do not change, and then we want to make it 95%. And then we have risk max, okay, profit and simulation number. Okay, here in risk mean, the G16 should be absolute referenced. Just want to make sure that the absolute references are all properly set. Now, standard deviation is kind of a measure of risk. So, larger the standard deviation, more risky it is. Okay, risk STDDV. Okay, that should be absolute reference, and for which simulation. Now, we can also get the percentage or the probability for a target value. Okay, and that uh, is given by risk target. Okay, risk target of what? Of profit. Okay, again, absolute reference, and then you give a target value, which in this case is 300. Okay, for which simulation. Okay, so this is going to give us the probability of the profit being less than or equal to 300, less than or equal to that target value. Okay, now I'm going to go into the edit mode, copy and paste it here. Okay, now we want probability that the profit will be greater than 400. Well, we can change the target value to 400, but that will give us the cumulative probability, which means probability of less than or equal to 400. So to find the probability that it will be greater than 400 is to do 1 minus that. Okay, so these two are probabilities. So let's do it that way. Okay, and the rest of them are dollar values. So, all right, so now we copy that part over. So now we get the statistics, output statistics that we have set up for the simulation for each order quantity. Now suppose we want to prepare graphical visualization of the simulation results. So we want one line for each of these outputs, like one line for minimum, one line for fifth percentile, with the x-axis being the order quantity. So highlight the area to be plotted, go to insert and select the scatter plot you want. Okay, so here it's plotting this way instead of this way. All right, so we have one for this series, one for this series, and so on. So if you swap the lines, so you can see that if you select data, you see the x-axis are these, and these are the corresponding y values. So we want to swap, so you say switch rows and columns. Now we have one line for minimum, one line for percentile, and then the order quantities are on the x-axis. So let's clean up some more, and we want this to go from 150 to 250. Okay, and you want them in increments of 25. All right, so that sets up our x-axis, and let's now give some titles. X-axis title is order quantity, and this is profit by order quantity, and here we have profit dollars. Okay. Now we can add, if you want the legend to go up, you can change the position of the legend by going here and then changing it to top. Okay, whatever that you'd like. Okay, so now you see when the order quantity is small, you have a narrower uh, range of values from going from minimum to maximum. Okay, as the order quantity increases, the range of profit expands, which means it becomes more and more risky. While there is an opportunity for making higher profit, there is also an opportunity for making a higher loss. So risk increases as order quantity goes up.